listening to Storytelling Saga, the podcast that shares stories. I'm your host, Allie, and this week I'm discussing Happy Endings, created by David Caspe. I've recently binged this entire show on Netflix. It popped up on my Netflix feed, and I thought to myself, I have to watch this show. I've been meaning to watch it. I've heard for years and years how fans have been wanting this show to be revived in some way, and unfortunately, that still hasn't come to fruition. But there has been, in 2016, they did a live table read of episode 401, so what would have been, I guess, the season 4 premiere. But it was like them reuniting after having all gone their separate ways, and there was meta humor with Alex saying it's as if our friendship was just canceled. It's so great. And then also in 2020, they did an entirely original episode as well, shot entirely on Zoom though. And it was so funny too, again with great meta humor, with Dave saying, 201. It's like, what? You call it 201? Yeah, it happened February 1st. And then, 206, referring to the actual episode production numbers. Stuff like that. I get such a kick out of meta humor. You know that by now, if, you've listened to me for a while. But that's one of the things I really love about this show. So the premise, though, of course, is with Alex leaving Dave at the altar. And then after a few episodes, like when they kind of mend their friendship, and then it just really becomes about just these 6 friends bumbling through adulthood and trying to date, trying to have their careers, trying to just, be there for each other. It's similar in that sense to New Girl, in that it's people in their 30s who you think at this point in their lives should have it all together in terms of, and of course it's different for everyone though, in terms of, say, getting married, having kids, whereas if you look at, say, Penny, for instance, who's just a perpetual dater, constantly trying to find Mr. Right. Or then, of course, with Jane and Brad, who they're married, but then they, you have, the sitcom-y things of sometimes keeping things from each other, even in the pilot where they're both detoxing, but then Jane is secretly drinking vodka. And then, of course, there was Max, who is the non-stereotypical gay dude, and that he's just super sloppy, and then they always tease him, for someone who doesn't act gay, you know even less about trying to pretend to be straight. Because, of course, a big thing in sitcoms is when characters lie about, their any given situation, or, with Penny, lying about who she is for whatever guy she's dating that week, or when Max was lying to his parents, saying that he was dating first, Penny, and then Jane pretending to be his girlfriend, all this, ridiculous, silly stuff. But what piqued my interest years ago, actually, was that I had first read the pilot, and then I had went back and watched the pilot. And what stood out to me in the earlier draft of the script was that it had first started with the rollerblades guy, all depressed, saying that he's, missing the love of his life, and then the people encouraging him to go after her. And then he crashes the wedding and whisks Alex away. And then in the actual episode, though, it starts with them, about to get married, and then the guy just bursts in, and then Alex apologizes to Dave and leaves him at the altar. And then in the script, it says how, and they run off happily ever after. But no, then we pull back and we are with the heartbroken groom. This is the other side of the happy ending. And I thought to myself, what a really cool concept. Instead of focusing on what's so typical in rom-coms of, say, stopping the wedding because you got to tell your best friend you're in love with them or whatever, or the true love of your life right in front of you all along, and then instead focusing on the poor guy left at the altar now, and then how's he going to mend his broken heart, how's he going to get back out there. And then we see kind of the trash, honestly, that Dave dates, especially in the first season, of just, hooking up and just trying to get back out there, quote unquote, whereas Alex then on her own, and then them trying to kind of be friends again because they're still with this group and they don't want to hurt each other. They don't want to hurt Penny in particular when it's her birthday in the pilot. And even in the pilot with Penny saying, I'm 26, and they met on J-Date, and then finally when she confesses, I'm 30, I'm Catholic, I'm gonna die alone in my, whatever she says, my Christmas sweater or something. And certain things, though, that aren't in the script compared to the pilot, 'cause then I went back now recently and reread that pilot script. It's such a good pilot, but just certain things then that weren't in the script that end up in the actual episode.
Excuse me, ma'am, are you done with this machine?
Ma'am? I am gonna go and bawl my eyes out, and then I will be back to physically fight you.
that wasn't in the original script. So like a line like that is so funny. So it's just too great. So I would say Penny, I think, is my favorite of the girls, and my favorite of the guys is Max. But I do also really love Brad and Jane and their relationship in particular. And of course I do love Alex and Dave too. It's just that with them kind of really they're on again, off again, even in season 1 when we see glimpses of their past relationship. But it's nice when they slowly become friends again though. And then they try dating again, then they ultimately break up again in the season 3 finale, which turns out to be unfortunately the series finale. But I think they would have eventually found their way back to each other, but who knows? Because also what I found extremely interesting is originally in the pilot script too, that isn't in the actual episode, the pilot, Penny apparently had a secret thing for Dave. Like she was secretly pining for him. And that was that was more overt in the pilot in the script, but not in the actual episode. But then there is like later on when Penny thinks she may have feelings for Dave and vice versa in that episode that purposely like also makes fun of rom-coms, when then Brad and Alex are bonding because they are brother and sister-in-law. And of course Jane is Alex's older sister. And then it turns out there's a third Kirkovich sister who is Jane and Alex's older sister. And what's funny too is how each season ended with a wedding. I liked that too. So I could only have imagined that perhaps the series finale would have ended with maybe Alex and Dave's wedding again, maybe Penny and Dave, who knows. Personally, I like the idea of, I think Alex and Dave were eventually meant to get back together, but again, who knows. And the main thing I noticed though, in terms of when I binged the entire show, the main thing in terms of a little bit with, because like it didn't have it, since it only was 3 seasons, 57 episodes, that I did notice though from season 1 to 2 that they kind of made Dave a little more pathetic and they made Alex a little more ditzy heading into like the rest of the series. Which is fine because you gotta like turn up things in terms of like comedic behavior for characters. So I'm not to say it's flanderizing, but just like a little bit, okay, let's push more in this direction for each of these characters. So that's interesting though. And like it was funny then with the season 2 premiere when like they're cheersing like their anniversary of when she left him at the altar, and then of course all the friends are there. So that's what's so great about this tight-knit group of friends, that they all truly do love each other. And with Brad and Jane, for example, I love, like with them, even though Jane is so much the type A personality, I love that she and Brad ultimately are such goofy weirdos with each other. Like, you know how much they love each other. They call each other boo all the time. They have like this similar sense of humor, similar values, like even like when they're super competitive with each other. But then there's things like, oh, they're hiding things from each other once in a while. Like when Brad doesn't, like he's doing a secret staycation, and then turns out Jane is doing a staycation too because like Brad didn't want to hang out with Jane's old sorority sister, like just things like that. And then more often than not, their stories in particular end with them just making out and like, you know, they're so in love with each other. Or that episode when Jane accidentally gives away all the Christmas, like the money they had saved up for their trip to like their cleaning lady, so like that gets out of hand. And then you got, say, Max, who's just happy being single, and then Dave moves in, and then Max just kind of has this different string of boyfriends. He dates briefly Schmidt, in fact. Like, I love how there's crossover with New Girl, like Schmidt, you know, Max Greenfield, he's in an episode. His character's name is Ian. So it's funny like seeing Max Greenfield and Damon Wayans Jr. in different roles, because I know them most as Coach and Schmidt, you know, so then seeing them in this show as different characters, it's cool. And I do appreciate how self-aware this series is, and just meta things here and there, with Max, for instance, saying how, I'm glad I just hear about your boyfriends, like your boyfriend of the week, through wrap-up dialogue, or just certain things like that. Or when Penny then is engaged to, this was a nice surprise to me too, when Nick Zano shows up, because I loved Nick Zano from that series, What I Like About You, because he is just so hot. He was so hot in that show, and in this show too, and he fit in well. It's just too bad that then Penny realized, which, you know, is understandable, she just realized that he wasn't the one, because Jane lets her know that me and Brad, we always knew we were meant for each other. It wouldn't have been like through a game that it would make or break us as a couple. So then Penny knew she had to unfortunately break off her engagement from I can't even, Pete, that's it. I'm thinking like Nick Zano, the actor. But when she was hanging out with, like, when Pete says, sometimes we'll hang out with your friends and sometimes my friends. And then when they're hanging out with Pete's friends, they're just kind of having a normal, casual conversation. And then Penny's so amazed, like, wait, you don't have like high stakes every week and like classic misunderstandings, like, you know, sitcom tropes, like playing up the fact that this is a TV show, like, you know, just meta humor like that. So that's too funny. And a big thing I like about this show, too, is that, like, one thing that stands out to me about this series is I think it's clever that even, like, all the guest actors, whether it's, say, a real estate agent, whether it's Brad's boss or something, like, all of these actors who come in, they don't play the straight man, whether it's like a waiter, whoever it may be, they all have kind of like a weird quirk about them or interesting story detail or character detail about them or weird backstory, just like something to make them all the more interesting. And then to talk about Dave and Alex's love story a little bit, because first in season 1 they're kind of getting over each other, but then Alex like is upset with Dave dating again, and then they have the whole thing about their tattoos, and then she was lying about the how she had gotten it removed, like her Dave tattoo and his Alex tattoo. They were gonna get them removed, but then like it hurt like a bitch, so they just kept them still, and just kind of a symbol of their friendship, and it's nice. And as I mentioned, I like how each season ended with a wedding. So in season 1, when it ends with them dancing, which is cute. In season 2, that's when like they decide to get back together, really. Like they just, you know, decide to give it another chance. And I love that one in particular when it ends with Max singing Madonna. Like they were man Donna, and he's singing at the end of that episode. And it's just like a really heartfelt moment when Dave looks at Alex and takes her hand and they're smiling at each other. And it's really cute. And again, going back to the friendships, though, I mean, I love Brad and Max's dynamic. When Max thinks that, like, Brad's leaving him out, but then he's saying, these are my business friends, I need, like, you know, my own time sometimes, and, like, Max, like, being insecure at times. Or then with Max and Dave when they have, like, a squatter in their house, like, just some guy stealing all their food. And I love the thing, too, like, just so much dancing, and, like, you know, with Max and Brad, when he's like, oh, dude, look what we did, and he's just doing, like, a beatboxing, they're both, like, dancing, it's just, like, ridiculous. I love this scene when Brad goes to the dentist, it's this whole, like, choreographed thing. He's, like, so proud of himself, he's never had a cavity, he's smiling, and then he sits down.
Ooh. I think you mispronounced. Ah.
You have a cavity.
Right, a cavity. Good one, Doc. That's hilarious.
It's no big deal. I'm just going to give you a tiny shot of Novocaine so I can drill that cavity out.
Are you serious?
Yes.
No. I don't do drills or shots. I can't do pain, okay? Give me the goof juice. Just give me the goof juice and don't be bashful. Put me all the way under. All the way under. I won't get mad if I'm making my pants. Seriously, I won't sue if I poo.
Gosh, it's so funny, like all these like performative funny things that they get to do. I guess the actors must have been such a blast. Also with Max, so he has so many like these tongue twister things, like that whole speech when he says about if Mary Tyler Moore and this one would be more, like this whole like Demi Moore, like whatever, like comparing like all these actors, like if he had married this one, divorced this one, would it be like, wow.
You know what I was thinking about? If Mary Tyler Moore married and then divorced Steven Tyler, then married and divorced Michael Moore, then got into a 3-way lesbian marriage with Demi Moore and Mandy Moore, would she go by the name Mary Tyler Moore, Moore?
Such great humor, such great writing in this series. Again, like props to the writers of this show. And then, of course, there was also like their friend Derek, who would show up once in a while, and so he's the one that gets married at the end of season 2. And in season 1, it was like their friend Shershao, who they always like made fun of, and then like he was getting his life together. And then Penny gives a speech, and she just like is super drunk because like her life isn't going the way she wants it to.
I want to say something I do. You're cute, but I am cuter.
Hey, everybody.
My name is Penny Hearts. Ding.
Yep.
And I'm one of Shersha's oldest friends. And how amazing is it that we both fell in love at the same time? You found Melinda, and I found Derek.
Sing it, bitch. Woo!
Magical night.
So congratulations, Melinda and Shershao. You have found each other, and now you will never have to pretend to be something that you're not. So let's raise our glasses. I'm going down.
Classic Shershao.
That's a nipple.
Poor Penny. And I also love the fact that the way they all met in that Thanksgiving episode, when it's revealed that they all met like through, well, Brad and Max were on, like years ago, they were on The Real World, and that's also then how Brad and Jane met, and then Jane just wanted to hook up with some other dude, and it just ended up in Brad's bed, then they just ended up hooking up, and of course getting married, so goodness. And like even Jane was a mess back then with her pink hair, and that's why like when Max comes out, but like he's eating a sandwich, so it looks like, dude, I'm Greg. And they're like, wow, you're the first person to be Greg on TV or whatever. Like they poke fun at stuff like that. And of course there's Dave with his food truck, Alex with her store. There's that episode when Alex and Penny are first intimidated by like these teenage girls, and then they ended up becoming friends with them because the girls idolized them, and like they're saying, oh, it's amazing you own this store, you have to tell us like what to buy, when Alex starts selling these like baby tees, like literal baby t-shirts that the girls end up wearing themselves. So it's just like so ridiculous. I love also like the Christmas episode too, when then Dave and Alex, they have a moment where like they're starting to develop feelings for each other again, perhaps, when Alex does, like, they do all the coupons, and then at the end, it's Dave, there's one more coupon, he says, oh, like, one kiss, even if I just put on lip gloss, and then she says, I promised I would do all the coupons, and they look at each other, and they just have a kiss. But, you know, they are cute, though, Dave and Alex. I think they were eventually meant to get back together, but who knows. I think it's funny also, too, how it's revealed that Jane is a Christmas baby, and, like, she just decided to make her birthday July 16th or something. I love also the episode when Penny, they're celebrating her 31st birthday, and it's Party of Six, that's the episode. And then like they think her birthday is cursed, then they just kind of like bypass all this crazy stuff. And then at the very end of that episode, some person puts a curse on them, and then they just like think they've switched bodies.
Well, the good news is it's a minute to midnight, so you survived your birthday.
Yes, and I overcame the birthday curse.
No more curses.
No more curses.
Espinis. Se pare că lo dose muto alati.
Well, this cannot be good for you.
Te me acusas alati.
Oh, she just wants the salt.
She just wants to.
Haisto goraka.
Oh my God, did we just switch bodies?
Here we go.
Oh my God, you guys, this pizza is amazing.
I'm Dave.
It's so ridiculous. I love just like ridiculous things like that. So it's just like, it's nice with, you know, even though like they're kind of a mess, all of them in their own ways, that they all come together to just help each other out, and they're great friends. There's also like the whole thing with Alex with her racist bird Tyler that Penny and Brad end up accidentally killing. It's so ridiculous. Well, they think it was her, they think it was them, and then it turns out Alex had accidentally killed it by giving it booze. So ridiculous. Oh my goodness. And also there's the whole thing where Penny and Dave's parents start dating, so Penny's mom and Dave's dad. The Zoom reunion episode was so funny too, because then they all just have their own weird things going on, and then Alex apparently just has like a baby, a COVID baby, whatever, and then all of a sudden Derek pops up, drama, y'all look old. That made me burst out laughing. It was so funny. Oh my goodness. I would love to see more. Here's hoping, because it really is such a solid show with awesome characters. And of course, you got stuff like Penny always saying amazing, and then they say things like souks, and Max with his here we go. I love that. Always so funny. And then them saying like so cute. Oh my God, so cute. Like just like ridiculous things. I also really love the subplot when it's just so ridiculous with Jane and Max when there are battling each other in terms of who is the less vain person, and that will decide who gets to keep that sweatshirt that one of them thinks is theirs, and then so they're dressing each other in super ridiculous over-the-top outfits just to prove that the other one isn't as vain. It's just so silly and dumb. So they're just a solid group of friends with all of their crazy, ridiculous antics, but they're just so funny. I like also the episode when they go to that wedding expo when Pete didn't want a whole big wedding, and then Penny has to show him like the fun about having a big wedding, and it's just like all this crazy stuff, and then Alex saying how Dave, that's why, you know, you were being selfish with the wedding, that's why it had to be all about what you wanted and stuff like that. And then Penny, like it's like a backdrop with Penny and Pete and saying like it could just be us, and it was a sign that they weren't meant to be, unfortunately. So poor Penny, hopefully she eventually finds love, because in the Zoom episode, Penny and Max just end up getting married, because Max saying I love you, let's just get married. So I don't know, you know, I guess canonically then, like in canon, they are married. And like Alex has a baby with God knows who, because then just the video cut out and then just Derek saying drama, so who knows there too. But I would like to think that eventually Alex and Dave find their way back to each other, but who knows, you know. At least they all still have each other, these crazy people, but they just are a really loving, hilarious group of friends. And, you know, I'm sure they will all eventually have their happy ending. And with that, that is going to conclude this week's episode of Storytelling Saga. Be sure to visit storytellingsaga.com, and as always, feel free to send me any questions, comments, or writing prompts by sending me an email at storytellingsaga@gmail.com. Next episode, I am so excited to say that I will be interviewing Gia Ligamari. She's a storyboard artist who has worked on shows such as Jellystone, Inside Job, and the upcoming Tiny Toons reboot, Tiny Toons Luniversity. Until then, thank you for listening, and remember, write what you love.
Life is a mystery. Everyone must stand alone. I hear you call.